it's me. Wait, you don't know me yet? Oh, is this part 1? Well, anyway, I'm Chronic Wolf and I'm the creator of Advanced Creation, which is a building mod that adds a real-time strategy perspective and loads of intuitive building tools. The ones you have just seen me use are not the only tools either. This is part 1 in this tutorial series for Advanced Creation Beta 1.0. This part, I'll tell you about the basics and how to get started. If that doesn't interest you, you can choose a different video here. Do check out chapters for this video and don't be afraid to skip to whichever part you need. I won't bite you for it. So join me in this tutorial as I try to talk fast and make bad jokes. Let's start with how to actually get to this fancy isometric view that is added by Advanced Creation. In this Beta 1.0 version, you have to be creative to use the Advanced Creations toolset. To that end, I've added this neat little button in the in-game menu that allows you to easily switch between survival and creative. Do make sure you have cheats enabled, otherwise this button won't work. Bam, we're in isometric view. Now you must be thinking, where did my regular creative go? Well, it's still there. This view is just added on top of the normal vanilla views. So you can just use F5 to switch back to first person. Every time you go back to first person, you get teleported to the closest ground. For your convenience, I've also added a button to the in-game menu that also allows you to switch between your views so you can easily go back to the isometric view. Now that you've reached the isometric view, you need to know how to control it. This is easy because Advanced Creation tries to follow the basic Minecraft controls that you are familiar with. So that means moving is done with the WASD keys. You press space to go up, you press shift to go down. Of course, the camera controls are different. You hold the mid mouse button and move to rotate the camera, and you can zoom in towards the point that you're pointing at, but scroll up. Scroll down is to zoom out. These controls can also be bound to keys if you like that more. Advanced Creation also adds some visuals in the world to help you build. It always shows you a preview of the block that you're going to place when you right click, and it uses red highlighting to indicate the blocks that you are going to remove when you left click. The colored crosshair shows you where the camera is focused around, and it also serves as an axis system that will help you orientate yourself. This will prove useful later on when you are building. To make building easier, I've made it so that water is not included in the selection, so you can easily build underwater. But to see the preview, you have to be underwater. If you don't want this, you can go into the in-game menu where I've added a button that says ignore liquids by default. But if you click on it, it says include liquids. Now you can select water. You can easily delete the water with the paint bucket. But now all of these fish are going to die, so I'll just undo this and have them their water back. Look how happy they are. There's also another button added to the in-game menu. This is because plants are also ignored by default. This makes it so that it's easier to build underneath trees. As you can see here, the leaves of the trees are not selected, and I can just place blocks behind it. The same with grass. I can just place blocks instead of the grass. The grass is not selected, but when I turn ignore plants off so that it says include plants, grass can be selected. And leaves are also selected. This way I can edit trees or hedges. Next I'll tell you about the heads-up display that is added. I'll warn you, there's a lot to talk about, and most of it is very self-explanatory, I think. But I might be wrong about that, so let's go over it anyway. Feel free to skip. First, you have the feedback bar. This shows you which tool you're holding and how many clicks are needed to complete an action in this tool. It'll also show you feedback about every action that you do. So when I right click, it will fill up green when the action happened successfully. And when I left click, it'll show you that a delete action happened. This way it will show you feedback about whatever action you do, confirming that that action actually took place or not. It also serves as a progress bar for tools that require multiple clicks, such as the line tool. This tool requires 2 clicks, so when you do the first click, it will fill up half, and when you do the last click, it will fill up completely to show you that the action happened. The same with delete. Examples of other messages are when you cancel, or when you undo, or redo, or when there's nothing more to redo. I know this is all pretty tame stuff, but I want to highlight one of the more confusing feedback messages. That's when you use an item that is not supported by Advanced Creation, such as a splash bottle or a music disc. It will say not handled by Advanced Creation then, but as you can see, the item still works. This message means that vanilla Minecraft handles this item. In most cases that just means your reach is reduced, but it will still work. Your trusty old toolbar cannot be scrolled anymore, since that is now zooming, but with a free mouse you can click the block that you want to select. But you can still use the number buttons to quickly select the block that you need. There's a button now that you can use to open the inventory, but you can still use the E button to open or close it. Whenever you hover over a heads-up display button, a tooltip will tell you what the button does and what hotkey you can use. On the left side is a slide bar that shows you how high your camera crosshair is, and also shows you where the ground is below you. You can change the height of your camera instantly by dragging this tab, but you can also press the ground button to enter follow ground mode. In this mode, the crosshair follows the ground as you move over it, just like in a real-time strategy game. You can exit this mode by sliding the tab, or just going up or down with space and shift. On top of this, you can see the main modes that you can use to build. Each of these has their own set of tools that follow similar ways of operating. You have build mode for building blocks and shapes, edit mode to edit the world, place mode for placing templates, and create mode for creating templates. I'll go into detail about these main modes later. Notice that it indicates which mode you are in now. Next is the help button. It will open an expansive menu with help if it's unclear what something does. The side menu has items and drop-down menus that you can click to get to the feature that you are curious about. Every item has a little video to show you how to use a tool or feature, along with the hotkeys and a small explanation. Right above the help button is the FPS counter. This also has a feature to improve your FPS for certain tools that can be heavy on your computer. When you click the up arrow, it will improve the FPS but lower some setting, and when you click the down button, it will decrease the FPS but increase some setting. Advanced Creation will always let you know what changed, and you can always go into the mod options to reset the settings to default. Not all tools have this option though, only the ones that are heavy on your computer. The re button stands for refresh, as it refreshes the world to get rid of any visual glitches. I know it's a bit of a bandage solution, but it works well, and it also gets rid of pesky missing chunks that used to happen to me all the time. Next to the refresh button is one of my favorite features of Advanced Creation, namely the ability to cut through the landscape. You can use it to look inside of buildings, and even build inside of them. When you look up, the cut will be reversed and you'll be able to see the ceilings of your building. As you can see, the cut is made just one block above the crosshair, and when you look up, the cut is one block below the crosshair. So because the placement of the cut is relative to the crosshair, you can move it up and down by moving the crosshair up and down. Besides that, you can also look into mountains and build straight into caves and explore them from an isometric viewpoint. Whenever you turn cut through vision off, the whole world gets re-rendered. The undo and redo button kind of reverse time. It's like a discount reverse time. It's very self-explanatory, though do beware, once you do another action, you cannot redo the actions that you have undone previously. Below that is some indication of what tool you are using and which settings are applied. What these settings do is different for each main mode, but I'll tell you about that when we get to that. For now, I'll just mention that you can right-click to toggle the settings and left-click to reverse toggle through the settings. The settings you see here on the sides can also be accessed via the tool selection wheel as indicated by the tooltip. You use left control to open the tool selection wheel. Now, this tool selection wheel is different for each main mode, so I won't go into the details now. I'll go over them in the beginning of each main mode. Down here on the right is some information. This might look very imposing. It's more for advanced builders who also want to use world edit. You can turn this off in the mod options as it is purely informative. It shows you the coordinates of the block you are pointing at, what the current offset is, more on that later, the size of the thing you are going to place, and the amount of blocks you are going to place. This next button clears the offset, as I'll explain later. And this button opens the screen where you can input absolute coordinates to build something. This is definitely for advanced builders, so don't worry about it, you can do perfectly without. I'll explain in detail further on in the tutorial. However, that'll be for one of the next parts of this tutorial series. Many thanks to our King Pixis and the other patrons, known as Bill Botkin, Quentin Butler, and Ranger 10700, for believing in this mod and supporting it. If you also believe in this mod, a little of your spare change would go a great distance in giving me more time to improve the mod. If that's not your cup of tea, you can also do the old like and subscribe to support me and get some news on the development. Now go on, click here to go to any of the other parts of the tutorial, or do whatever you do.